Have you ever noticed him glancing at you when he assumed you weren't paying attention? His voice changes slightly when he talks to you alone. Even if his words are cautious, his soul has already made a choice, and that choice is you. The unconscious doesn't lie. What if I told you that the man who occasionally gives you conflicting signals is actually more in love than he even knows? Carl Jung found that our most profound feelings manifest themselves through imperceptible actions that are beyond our control. A man's body reveals what his lips have not yet revealed when his soul recognizes yours. Silence may be the exact opposite of indifference, which many women mistake for it. In ways that neither of you fully comprehends, the most genuine kind of love subtly changes his entire world without making a big show of it. Even though his mind hasn't yet recognized it, these are the clear indications that his soul has picked you up to this point. That man may be much more in love with you than he realizes, despite his silences, aloof demeanor, or unexpected intimacy. Because love isn't always expressed clearly or logically. It can also enter through dreams, the way he looks at you without realizing it, or the way his behavior changes when he's with you and only with you. According to Jung, fate, which also holds true for love, is what is not made conscious in life. His soul is already working for him if he hasn't realized what he feels yet. I would like you to comment on the word resonance before we move on to the video. Do it for yourself, not just for me, because you allow your soul to acknowledge what it already knows when you write a word that resonates with you. If this message made you feel something, leave a comment with the word resonance. Write resonance and allow the universe to react. If these words resonate with you in some way, how then can you tell if he is genuinely in love? Even if he never expresses it aloud, what clues do his unconscious heart and deepest feelings give you? This analysis will not be superficial. We're going to delve into what Jung referred to as the symbols of the soul, or how a man expresses himself when something inside of him vibrates whenever you're close by, even if he doesn't fully understand it himself. I won't talk about text messages or romantic cliches, and before we go any further, I want you to pay attention to every sign, because we frequently make the mistake of waiting for announcements, vows, or extravagant displays, and we miss the most important thing, the way someone changes their inner world when you are in it. True love, according to Jung, isn't predetermined or chosen. It seems like an unavoidable force that breaks down our barriers and reunites us with the most fundamental aspect of our identity. Thus, let your sensitivity and intuition run wild, and pay attention to what follows. And if you've witnessed that man engaging in any of these behaviors, if he responds in any of these ways, it indicates that he is deeply moved by you and likely more in love than his logical mind is willing to acknowledge. I'll go over each of these indicators with you, starting with the least obvious and ending with the most obvious. Seeing how someone's soul reacts to genuine love is more important than simply determining whether or not he loves you. A man's behavior starts to change in ways he cannot even control when he is profoundly moved by a feminine presence that changes him, even if he is unable to express it verbally. His attentional shifts are the first obvious clue. It's a subtler, more genuine form of attention than the overt kind that aims to impress or garner attention in return. He begins to pick up on details that others miss, like how you truly feel, despite saying, "I'm fine." How you changed your hairstyle without mentioning it, or whether your voice sounds different. This type of attention stems from a strong bond rather than petty curiosity. According to Jung, genuine feelings project themselves for our comprehension. Because of this type of man responds from within rather than using a plan. He can remember you even if he doesn't see you every day. He may bring you up out of the blue, inquire about an unresolved matter, or just show up without any apparent reason. His unconscious is drawing him to you. It's not a habit. Something that he hasn't yet defined is attracting him as he processes it. This is emotional resonance, not dependence or obsession. Something in him has been moved by your energy and is starting to communicate without using words. He begins to change when he's with you, which is another potent indication. Some men behave the same way around everyone, but when a man is genuinely in love, even if he isn't aware of it, he acts differently toward you. He might come across as more open, vulnerable, or even awkward, because genuine love disarms people, which makes them more genuine and human. You're seeing something much more than fleeting interest if you observe that he only lowers his defenses around you and that his silences with you feel meaningful rather than uncomfortable. There's more, though. According to Jung, the soul guards what it loves, so this man may start worrying about you in ways that don't make sense. He might want to make sure you're eating healthily, that you're not walking alone at night, and that you're warm. It has to do with something inside of him that has started to feel accountable for your well-being, as if his equilibrium somehow depends on yours. It has nothing to do with control or making himself appear significant, and it indicates that a man has already incorporated you into his inner world when he begins to care for you with that quiet devotion, without asking for praise or expecting anything in return. His soul is already inextricably linked to yours, regardless of whether he expresses it, comprehends it, or chooses to acknowledge it. Don't take it lightly if you're experiencing these symptoms, and if every word speaks to you. Don't let his lack of words fool you. There is much more going on inside him than meets the eye. Hold on, because what follows will unveil even more profound indications, ones that can only be discovered through genuine connection. Sometimes a man's energy speaks for him without any words. His presence seems to speak for him. Perhaps he hasn't expressed his love for you, or perhaps he hasn't made any significant plans or promises. However, there's something about the way he looks at you, the way his breathing changes as you get closer, and the way he remains silent next to you without having to talk. That silence is the total presence of words, not their absence. It's his soul making an unhindered connection with yours. Because a man's body speaks louder than words when he is more in love with you than he is willing to acknowledge. Observe his response when someone else mentions you. When someone in a group gives you praise, look into his eyes. Observe the change in his expression when someone criticizes you. Love's instinct takes over even when his mind is still confused, so it doesn't need to be conscious to defend what it values. Jung claimed that the unconscious has its own ways and that we are frequently led by feelings that we are still unable to identify. Something inside of a man has already determined that you are more important than he initially believed if he reacts, even just by looking when your name is mentioned. His effort is another obvious indication. When someone genuinely cares about you, they try, even in the smallest ways. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be seen in the way he listens to you, recalls past conversations, makes time for you, or even apologizes when he feels inadequate. More than 1,000 words are revealed by that silent effort. Because an insensitive person doesn't move, but an affectionate person, even if they don't realize it, creates room. Their inner world is already rearranging itself to accommodate you, not because they have to or want to impress you. And here's something that very few people realize. When a man feels profoundly moved by you, he starts to change even when you're not there. His thoughts become more erratic and his routine changes. He may appear more preoccupied, thoughtful, or agitated. You're there, present in his thoughts, in his feelings, in the things that were once automatic but are now not, as though something has been triggered inside of him. He's not sure why. Jung talked about how internal figures, even in the absence of physical contact, have the ability to change a person. And without realizing it, you've turned into a character that lives inside his head. You're already there, even if he doesn't express it or denies it. You shouldn't be duped by outward behavior because of this. Many men keep quiet about their feelings because it's difficult for them, not because they are emotionless. Hem to convert the soul's language into the language of words. If you're looking closely, you can see past this point. You can sense that his heart has already made up its mind to stay, something he hasn't realized yet. There are more indications of this quiet but potent love, and when you comprehend them all, you'll see the whole picture, which could alter your perspective on love forever. A man in love undergoes a change in his heart that is rarely apparent. At first, it is slow, nearly undetectable, and incredibly potent. When he begins to give up some of the habits that used to characterize his everyday existence, that change becomes apparent. It's possible that he avoided commitment in the past, maintained emotional distance from people, or just lived a comfortable individualistic life. However, something has been stirring inside of him ever since you entered his life. Thinking of himself alone is no longer sufficient. He begins to share emotional and mental space that he was previously unwilling to do. He does this almost instinctively, as though his soul is adapting to a new reality that is calling to him from deep within. Rather than as a sacrifice, keep an eye out to see if he has started to share aspects of his life with you that he keeps private. I'm referring to personal tidbits of his story, his regrets, his fears, and his deepest dreams, rather than unimportant details. When a man and you connect on that level, he starts to show his humanity without any filters, not because he wants you to think he's perfect, but because he's starting to trust you in a way he has never done before. It's no longer a game of seduction or about conquering at that point. It's giving up. And the best indication that something has changed inside of him is that surrender, no matter how minor it may seem. According to Jung, the soul requires a mirror in order to understand itself, and you become that mirror by being there. He starts to see you, and he also starts to see himself differently. The way he responds to your feelings is another aspect that is frequently overlooked. Not everyone is able to manage the intensity of another person's emotions, but when a man is genuinely invested in you, he starts to feel down without even recognizing it. When he senses your happiness, he smiles with you, but when he senses your sadness, he gets uneasy. His energy changes when yours does, even if he doesn't have the right words. He might not ask, "Are you all right?" every time, but you can tell by the way he looks at you, the way his voice becomes softer, and the way he approaches you unsure of what to do, but still wanting to do something. One of the most sincere expressions of unconscious love is the desire to support you in your feelings, even if you don't know how. What occurs when you're not around is possibly the most telling indication of all. Observe his actions while you are away. If he mentions you in casual conversations, if he keeps things for later, if something, you're still alive in his inner world, thoughts, and feelings, and you're the first person he thinks of when there's no physical presence to trigger it. Then, since what remains after being absent is more powerful than what is spoken in person, there's no question that he is more in love than he realizes. And that's the soul speaking, not a coincidence. Since love frequently doesn't come with words or assurance, all of this isn't about speculating about someone else's feelings. Rather, it's about learning to read with your heart. When the soul starts to recognize another soul, it sends out signs. Keep your distance because what follows will show you how love acts when it is uncontrollable. There comes a point at which a man, even if he is unaware of it, starts to require your presence, not out of habit, but rather as a way to maintain equilibrium, even though he doesn't use sentimental language or prepared statements to convey it. There's a change in his energy whenever you're far away. You'll notice it in his restlessness when he hasn't heard from you, in the way he appears just when you're beginning to forget him, and in the way any excuse seems acceptable as long as it puts him back in your sphere of influence, even if only briefly. It's a sincere connection that comes from a place so profound that even he finds it difficult to explain why he thinks of you so frequently. It's not obsession or emotional dependency. According to Jung, that makes perfect sense because the unconscious isn't constrained by time or logic. When a genuine emotion establishes itself there, it starts to influence ideas, feelings, and choices. The way that man starts to take your opinion into consideration, even on matters that don't directly affect you, is one of the most potent ways this shows up. Instead of trying to impress you, he may begin to share his life plans and ask your opinion because he sincerely wants to know if they coincide with yours. Not as a tactic, but rather because you're subtly taking on a guiding role in his emotional realm. Because his soul has found a safe presence in you, someone with whom he can be fully himself. No armor, no performance. He may even begin talking about his uncertainties and insecurities, not because he views you as a therapist or lacks emotional self-control, because love isn't based on certainty, but rather on the capacity to be vulnerable without fear. There are no more barriers once a man reaches that level of emotional openness with you. One of the purest manifestations of profound love is the trust he has, even if it is unconscious. Even though you don't mention it, the way he begins to envision his life with you validates everything. You'll notice it when he speaks about the future and unintentionally says things like, "Someday I'd love to go to this place." In that vision, you're already there. He alludes to it without saying it out loud. His unconscious is accessible through those brief words and those impromptu mental images. Keep in mind that you are already a part of the path, not just a passing visitor, but a permanent part of his ideal world. The simplest gestures reveal the soul's love, so you don't need to put any pressure on him or ask for clarification. Even if he doesn't fully understand it yet or hasn't had the guts to say it aloud, if he's doing this, if his energy, his actions, and his attention are all naturally pointing in your direction, then what exists is real. Because everything else is just a matter of time once the soul has made its decision. During that period, you can see with the soul's eyes what the mind is still afraid to express. There's more to discover, so stay with me. Something changes in a man's relationship with you when he starts to view you as something he doesn't want to lose. That shift isn't surface level. It's not about showing more affection or making more frequent contact. It's about his soul starting to rearrange his world to accommodate your presence. Because when a feeling is genuine, the other person becomes vital to life rather than merely a component of it. Even if he doesn't express it, you can tell when he begins to put you first. He shows up because he wants to be there, not because he has to, even though he may be having a busy day and feeling pulled in many different directions. Because peace is one of the most undervalued but crucial feelings in love. And being with you, even in silence, gives him peace. Love is more than butterflies and thrills. The serenity that results from being with someone who doesn't need to change in order to be loved is another manifestation of true love, the kind that develops in the unconscious, and that Jung researched and recognized as a transformative force. He begins to view you as home, not a physical location but an emotional haven. When he is at ease with you, when he feels that he can let his guard down, when he can be flawed and still be accepted. And after that, he starts doing something that most people don't immediately notice. Without your asking, he begins to align himself with you. Perhaps he starts to appreciate the things you do, and he starts to wonder about your ideas, passions, and what makes you tick. He simply learns the value of sharing what was once exclusively his, without losing his uniqueness. It's not a coincidence. True intimacy, in Jung's view, emerges when inner boundaries soften as two souls start to resonate. It's about that unspoken sense of belonging that doesn't require an explanation. Not just about attraction. Take note of how he defends you when you're not there. He stands up for you in casual conversations, and when you're not even there, even though you might not hear or see it. He does this not to gain favor, but because he feels that protecting you is a necessary part of defending what he has come to love. Sometimes love just whispers. Other times it shouts. The strongest kind of love is the one that stands up for you even when no one else does. Sometimes love communicates through actions that no one else can see. Therefore, don't disregard it. If he acts in this way, alters his routine without your knowledge, shows you care in ways you can't see, or considers you when making significant decisions, even he might not fully comprehend the emotional reality you are facing just yet. The purest form of love emerges there, in the aspect of ourselves that hasn't yet been shaped by fear, reason, or previous trauma. We're going to get to the most profound indications of an unmistakable love, so stay put. The most crucial realization is that true love doesn't always manifest with drama. When you reach the point where all the signs start to come together, when you look back and see that this man has changed without you even realizing it, and when his silences, actions, and smallest gestures speak louder than words. It doesn't always show up with fireworks or flawless proclamations. Sometimes it manifests as silent tenderness, silent care, or quiet presence that doesn't require witnesses. Man's soul has already made a choice that his mind is only now starting to comprehend when he is more in love with you than he realizes. Jung taught us that the unconscious doesn't lie, that there is a truth that exists inside of us and manifests itself in ways we don't always understand, but that are unquestionably real, such as symbols, feelings, and behaviors. Pay attention to these indications if you've sensed this connection, or if something inside of you knows that what's happening between you two is not a coincidence. Often, what we refer to as doubt is just the mind attempting to understand what the soul already knows, so trust your instincts. The genuine resonance of a soul that has subtly selected ours is ultimately what we seek, not the ideal expression of love. The subtle alchemy of rearranged priorities and the force that draws him back into your orbit, even when reason cannot explain it, are the signs, not the loud declarations. The most profound connections, according to Jung, come from the place where our true selves reside, unaffected by fear or calculated strategy. Love before words occurs when a man rearranges his inner world to include you as a vital component, when his energy shifts both with and without you, and when he shows you his vulnerability without armor. At the level of being, it is recognition, and if you're still here and haven't clicked away, it's because this message is reaching you deep down, not with dramatic promises or meaningless words, but with that serene knowing that tells you this is true. Because genuine love just stays. It doesn't demand, impose, or require praise. It becomes an unwavering force that speaks loudly even on the quietest days, but encircles you without your knowledge. At that point, you realize that love, true love, is a language rather than merely an emotion. Furthermore, words are not necessary in that language. You can see it in the smallest things, like how he looks at you for a second longer when you're not looking, how he recalls things you thought he forgot, or how his eyes change as soon as you enter the room. What appears inconsequential to others becomes a profound resonance within you. And no, perfection isn't the point. Idealizations are not the foundation of conscious love. There are occasionally uncertainties, uncomfortable silences, and brief separations. However, because what is born of the soul does not break with the first storm, there is a presence that endures even in those pauses and cracks. Jung discussed the process of individuation, which is the search for one's actual self. However, he also taught us that along that path, we come across people with whom we connect on a deeper level than reason. And when two people who are healing cross paths, they want to walk together rather than complete each other. That man may not always be able to express how much he loves you. He might struggle to find the right words. He may struggle with his own anxieties, with scars that aren't yours to bear, and with ghosts telling him he isn't good enough. His actions, however, go against his fears if you watch with an open mind. That he stays in spite of the fear. That his soul has already started to recognize you as home, so even when he is unsure, he never completely leaves. And something profound starts to change when one soul finds a home in another. Sharing from a place of freedom is now more important than coming together out of necessity. He wants you to walk with him, not to fix him. Without even recognizing it, you turn into a mirror that reflects both his light and his shadows, reminding him of his true self amidst the cacophony of the outside world. Because of this, when he is at ease with you, it's not just a show of affection, it's an act of trust. And according to Jung, it's full of archetypal meaning and symbols. We only let our guard down when we feel safe, and that's because what we feel is real. And don't interpret it as weakness if he does that to you. If he shows you his errors, his blunders, and his contradictions, few people dare to offer this kind of surrender. Many people are still searching for overwhelming, scream-inducing, and impressing love. You're seeing something different, though. A love that endures, that stays when no one else is around, that makes decisions without the need for a show. A love that has already started constructing a haven for you on Earth, so it doesn't promise you the moon. And that love, despite its seeming quietness, is enormous, because it depends on the connection rather than the time. On some days, he won't know how to behave. He might withdraw. He might wonder if he's sufficient for you. However, even in that back and forth, there is still an unseen thread that draws him back and encourages him to try again. Because the mind eventually agrees, when the soul does. And you who experience these emotions and see these indications are not dreaming. The subtle language you are receiving is only readable by awakened hearts. You are facing a connection that transcends classifications, time, and certainty. Something is growing inside of you, like a seed that doesn't require coaxing to open. Perhaps he hasn't yet come to terms with it. Perhaps he still believes it to be a coincidence, or simply a matter of compatibility or chemistry. However, another truth is already developing inside of him, one that drives him to prioritize you without being asked. protect you without intending to, and seek you out without knowing why. That is born, that vibrates. It cannot be produced. And if the time comes for him to finally express what his soul already knows, it will be because you understood that mature love is a dance rather than a race, that you knew how to hold space and that you didn't rush it. A dance in which the two dance in unison without ever practicing, or in which one steps while the other waits. The sacred is exposed in that flow, in that enigmatic harmony. That which just is, that which requires no explanation. According to what Jung taught, the most genuine aspects of ourselves are hidden deep within, in dreams, symbols, and unexpectedly arising emotions. And when love is genuine, it resides there in the area of the soul that is unaffected by masks, lies, or fear. Therefore, don't doubt it if you observe him changing, if you see his habits changing, his priorities shifting, or his energy softening when he's around. He has fallen in love. His soul has already chosen you, even if he isn't aware of it yet or chooses not to express it. And for those of you who share that feeling, keep in mind that you are not here by accident. You are on the verge of something genuine, something that very few people ever encounter, something that cannot be purchased, imitated, or coerced. A love that is developed in silence, gesture by gesture, step by step, until one day, out of the blue, it becomes certain. You won't need to make any promises to one another when that occurs, when you both see it fearlessly, because you will already be moving in the same direction, not out of necessity, but out of choice, out of that quiet, profound conviction that true love transforms everything without shouting. And as time passes, almost without your knowledge, something inside of you also starts to change. It's not because of what he says or promises, but rather because his presence starts to reside inside of you. Not in your head, but in that more subdued, perceptive, and wiser aspect of you called your soul.